What's up, people? Welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best music show, talking about everything brutal, new, death, hard, slam, grind, thrash, core, metal. I don't think I missed anything. I'm your host, Jay Horskow. Joining me once again is my co-host, my partner in crime, the notorious TIM. Tim, are you enjoying this shit-ass weather outside?
Oh, yeah.
70 and rainy. What the fuck? It's terrible. And tomorrow it's going to be
20
50.
and snowing.
Tomorrow it's going to be 50. It's like the Powerball time of the year where it's like 17, 48, 3. It's fucking brutal. And joining us this week, we have the gentleman from Dropspike. We have Captain Dugog and Oriiion. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
I mean,
I guess
thank you for having us.
Oriiion, you're like old hat at this point, right? Like, you're like an irregular. You're starting to rack up the appearances. So I guess.
So what's the time difference here? What do we have going on?
1
it's
p.m.
It's 6 over here.
Where exactly are you again?
I am in Wales right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wales. Every time someone says Wales, I think of that joke. It's the internet meme where the guy walks up and the two girls is a Victorian picture, and he says, "Are you girls from England?" And they both say Wales, and he goes, "Oh, are you
two Wales from
Are you
England?
two Wales from England?" And I'm like,
Fucking classic. Oh my god, my buddy Stephanie will say that to me every day. He's been saying that to me since I moved here.
It's definitely an American thing. So, Oriiion, we've had you on before, and we've talked about your solo project, but now this is a collaboration. So, I'm gonna start by asking you, how did this come about?
Oh man, just kind of happened on a whim. So I'd say probably like February of 2021. I was just like, I had just gotten through with some kind of test or something in like AP English class or something like that, and I was just like doodling out on some like notepad paper, and I was like drawing grid lines and shit like that, and I was like, I want to design a new logo because I've got this band name stuck in my head, and I think it sounds sort of cool, so I want to try and do something with it. So I just started drawing about a bunch of like concepts for logos and stuff, and that later became the one that's like on the Bandcamp page and stuff. And so I was asking Doug because he had done my track Terminal on one of my older like electronic albums or whatever. So I just asked him like, do you want to record new metal or whatever? Because I've never like sat down and like recorded like live drums or live guitar or anything like that for like a rock context. I'd only done electronic music, so I was just like, I was kind of chomping at the bits to finally, work on some stuff that I can actually like put myself out there and like more of my, ability, I guess.
Cool. So,
yeah.
How did you two meet?
Ooh, the original new metal Discord.
The original
server.
new metal
The
server.
OG one that got raided and people started posting pictures of poop on there. That original one. So
Damn.
I think
that
we
sounds
met,
like a normal chat group that Tim and I are in. So it's
right.
Yeah, so
I mean that's basically us now, but
so we started in it was actually New Year's Day on 2021. We started this place called
You remember that? Wow.
Yeah, I remember that. We started this place called New Chord, and it was originally do you know if you know the YouTuber Star Damage? She's the one who started the server, and we had a bunch of the OGs from there, and that's how I met Doug, that's how I met Kirk, that's how I met a bunch of other people.
Well, I brought Kirk into that entire circle, but like Oriiion and my buddy Ian, we all met on the original new metal server, and we were like kind of casuals on there, and we'd hang out throughout the pandemic. So like I knew about Oriiion, I'd listen to his music, and we'd talk like every now and then.
Yeah.
And then I was already in Kirk's band. Well, band is like it's a one-man project with his buddies and
with a bunch of hired guns.
Yeah, right. So he was like, "Oh, I need a hired gun turntablist," and he found like my YouTube channel, and I did like a cover of Elite by Deftones, and he's like, "This is the coolest shit in the world. I need you in my band now."
Yeah.
And so yeah, we like just emailed each other back and forth, and I joined his project, and then through that, when New Chord was formed, I was like, you know what, Kirk needs like friends to talk to about this because he's just ranting to people on Twitter, and like this doesn't seem healthy. So let me just like show him my a couple of my buddies and see what he could do. And so I sent him the invite, and it's been like that ever since. So
yeah, and then I just on a whim just asked him randomly like, you ever done turntables for an IDM song before? And he was like, no, I hadn't. And I was like, here's Terminal, work some stuff out with this, do whatever you want. And it was like, oh, this sounds like Session by Linkin Park. And I'm like, You know, and then we both started
Yeah.
figuring out that we liked a lot of the same bands. Like we both loved Linkin Park, Sunk Loto, like a bunch of the we
Fear
call it
Factory.
monkey new metal. Yeah.
Yes,
Fear
Incubus
Factory,
too.
Crossbreed, Incubus, Seven Dust, any of the Lowry brother bands.
Yeah.
IDM, industrial dance music.
Ooh, it could.
Okay, so
Isn't it intelligent dance
Yeah,
music?
IDM, EDM. Talk to us old people.
Intelligent dance
Ooh.
music.
Okay.
Which
So it's like think like Aphex Twin or Boards of Canada or like Pro
Gotcha.
M or something. That's or like
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
that's-
I approached it from like a completely different lens because I didn't listen to a lot of like drum and bass music and IDM like in general. That wasn't my scene. So I approached it from like a almost dubstep, turntablism, and like frontline assembly, like gabber kind of like outlook on things.
yeah,
So
that
like
ended up turning
it
out
worked
like
out pretty
super good.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how our sound kind of shaped itself. It's like it has like the metal instrumental sections, but there's a lot of industrial elements that I get to throw in on there with turntables and synths, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, and I've like written like a ton of riffs at the time, so like I was just like, you know, through my one channel interface, just like punching out some riffs and only the riffs, and I was showing them to Doug, and I was like, I have some ideas. And then the song Lost Voices, which was the first single, and I ended up completely re-recording because I think the original version is fucking terrible.
I'd have to disagree. I still like the original version quite a lot.
Yeah,
I will admit, man, that intro riff is an earworm. Like
It's
that
cool.
literally is an
It's
earworm.
so-
I woke up the other day and I had it in my head and I couldn't remember where it was from.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just blasting through my Spotify history to try and find it. I'm like, where did I know I've heard that recently. Where did I hear that? But yeah, and you know, it's funny you both mentioned Linkin Park because on that song, the notes that I have is the first minute of this and nobody would be the wiser.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that was definitely one of my biggest influences for that.
I had like this long, like air horny kind of like white noise filter envelope scratch that I do on that where it like goes down. It's like, and it's really cool. And I just hit that with like a bunch of reverb and a bunch of different pedal effects. And I was like, I'm gonna do some soundscapey stuff on this song. And it ended up working out pretty well because it sounds really cool, like with like when put together with like that really catchy riff.
Yeah,
So-
it works. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so all right. So are you originally from the States?
Yeah, so well, my family's from Maryland. I just move
Okay.
around a lot. Yeah, so I moved overseas when I was like born overseas. I was born in the Middle East. I was born in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Not military, because that's usually the first thing people think of. Like researchers, scientists, but we got moved overseas because of the NIH, and because of that, we do go back home like every couple months or so. So like I always just feel a little bit behind the times, but like I guess originally Maryland's like where most of my family is from. So that's kind of like the scene I've been around. Scene is like I don't know. I feel like I'm too distant from it. Like I know some local bands and that's about it. Like 2 or 3 local bands. Because my cousin's actually a drummer in a couple local bands in the
Okay.
DC area.
Yeah, I was just a little confused, like the whole
Yeah.
time thing. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like last night, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, no.
No.
It's weird. It's I don't know. I feel like I have to do some explaining sometimes.
No,
I
no,
didn't
that's
even
cool.
think that I fully knew for like the
Yeah.
longest time.
Well, the internet makes it easy to abstract that stuff, right? Because most of our conversation is asynchronous anyway, before the rise of Zoom and whatnot. So, I mean, anybody who grew up in or is native to message board culture, locations were always after the fact. It was more you were sharing personalities and agreeing on certain things, especially with music. Music is the easiest filter to get people of the same opinion talking to one another. And then it's like, oh, where are you from? Wait, where? Where the fuck is that? Where? Yeah.
It's funny because you're from here, you move over there, but you're working with people from here.
From
So
here,
it's like
yeah.
you're not really missing out. It's kind of cool
Yeah.
actually.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I'm trying to start some like local band stuff here. They don't really have. I'm in a really small town that just has a couple post-punk bands, and that's about it. And it's just like, no, we're gonna inject some hardcore and new metal into this scene. We're gonna get like straight edge bands to just come by. We're like, hey, yeah, y'all heard of like Minor Threat? Yeah, we're just gonna like bring that sound back here again.
It's funny you
interject
mentioned Minor Threat, and then you mentioned
Yeah.
DC because I am convinced. So, did any of you watch that Salad Days documentary, which is the history of Minor Threat and Fugazi?
No, I
and
haven't.
Ian
I still
MacKaye?
need to.
I need to see that.
It's history of DC hardcore. And it's really interesting, but I almost feel like Ian MacKaye still being around, he unintentionally puts a a stop. Like he has placed a ceiling on what you can do in DC hardcore. Because think about it. The last big thing that came out of DC was what? Bad Brains and Minor Threat. And then that's been it. And Ian MacKaye's still bumping around. Discord Records is still bumping around the $5 7-inch. And I don't think he does it. It definitely isn't intentional. And I don't even know if anybody's really thought about it this way, but I definitely think that his continued presence isn't a bad thing, but it puts an artificial expectation on all the bands trying to come up below there. Because think about it, right? In the last 10, 15 years, name one or two big bands that have come out of the DC area. I can think of one.
Battery.
Periphery?
Periphery? Battery is, are they still around?
I thought Periphery was from Bethesda, Maryland.
Oh yeah, they are.
But
well,
that's
we're
DC.
okay, close
that's
enough.
But that's around DC, right? So when you
Okay,
think of
fair
DC,
enough, yeah.
it's Falls Church, it's Tyson's Corner, it's all the stuff in Maryland around that.
Darkest
Hour. Darkest Hour is the only big
yeah,
band I can
okay,
think of. I mean, like big band that's come out of that DC area, and it's
Nothing Face.
yeah.
Aren't they from? Yeah, they're from Maryland.
They
too,
were Maryland, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I mean,
also
you
remember
have
when they
the
came
voice.
out, Fugazi was still a thing, right?
Yeah.
There was that big divide between hardcore and what we consider new metal, and
Yeah.
now I think now Ian MacKaye has become such an elder statesman that it almost has swung the pendulum the other way, where it's swinging back around.
We need more creativity in the scene.
Tim, did I cut you off?
No.
Doug, it's funny that you brought up Gabber, because Tim and I have
Yeah.
talked about doing an episode on in the late 90s when all the record labels, they thought electronic was the next big thing. And while you had like the Chemical Brothers and the Sneaker Pimps and all that stuff starting to get some noise, you had like Johnny Violence and you had the Omar Santana stuff. And you had what is now, I guess, the contemporary artists I could say now would be something like Anger Fist or Noise Kick or something like that, where that whole, not happy hardcore, that brutal, like Nightmares from Rotterdam, that type stuff. All the labels at one point decided this was going to be the next big thing, and they signed a whole bunch of bands, and they had no fucking idea what to do with them.
Yeah.
And
You even see
there were
like
also
metal-
there were also people popping out like Disciples of Annihilation and like Screamer Claws who were just doing like completely unmarketable things with Gabber and speedcore music. Like
I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I get the whole get on the next trend before it becomes a trend, but like, yo, like
why Gabber? Yeah.
And I mean, and it's really interesting, right? Because they even got like pre-existing bands to do stuff like that, like Fear's the Mind Killer on like Fear Factories. That little EP was like really interesting too. Like I don't know how many people actually actively go back and listen to it, but I actually thoroughly enjoy that. I really
it's fantastic. It's all racist stuff. Yeah,
it's so cool. Yeah, the Frontline Assembly stuff is awesome. Shit, even like Sunk Loto had like this Gabber-esque demo. No, it was a remix on Society Anxiety Blunt. The Blunt remix that had like, it was like a Gabber track with like turntable scratching and stuff on it. I thought that stuff was so cool. And even recently, Purity, they got Venom Benzo, they got Vane's turntablist to like remix one of their tracks, Mirror Desert Eagle mix, and it was like a Gabber-esque like metal remix with like turntable scratching and very reminiscent of like 90s Gabber music, and it was really cool.
He's super talented.
He's awesome. You guys need to get him on here. I need to hear that guy talk about stuff.
You want me to be that guy and tell you that Vane's not a new metal band?
I'm not calling them new metal. I'm just saying they have a turntablist, so you tell me. I don't know. It's like
he's busting
like
stones.
break balls.
But when he started touring with them, my first thought was I thought their next album was going to be way more in the new metal, like in that lane.
Me too.
And because they did that headlining run with Kaunashi and Hangman and who was it? The UK band Higher Power. And he comes out and he has a full setup, and I'm going, that next album is going to be more new metal. And then they put out that next album, and it's like, oh my god, what the?
It's more terrifying.
It is. There's the noise elements are there. It's really cool to hear his sampling, and there is scratching too, like on Inside Design and like Magazine Beach and some of the other tracks where like you can hear like pretty distinct like scratching with like white noise and samples and stuff, and it's really cool. But yeah, they definitely brought him in for like this noise element that he really has, and he's really good at that. Even his solo music is really ambient and has this drum and bass, trip hop, turntablism like elements to it that like reminds me of like DJ Shadow and stuff like that, which is really cool.
It's funny because Tim and I we just interviewed Harvey from Graphic Nature, and we in the middle of that interview we went down the tangent of he's like, yo, I think drum and bass interludes are the coolest thing in the world. And we
Yeah.
went down that rabbit hole. We started talking
Yeah.
about Your Demise, where Your Demise, their last album, they had a bunch of them, and it fits more, I think, with extreme or aggressive type music as a segue. Then I think it fits better there than any other other
for
type
sure.
of album. That type of interlude works.
I don't know if we like collectively agreed about this, Orion, but like we had a drum and bass interlude, didn't we? At the very start of our
The very start of the
we
album.
did.
And you know what? I'm just gonna say right now, Battering Ram is my favorite song on the album.
Battering Ram was really difficult to work on. Just
I know,
scratching on like
I'm
the
very
glitchy
sorry
drum.
for that.
No, don't be, because that was like that was insanely fun to work on.
Yeah.
But Jesus, that was tough.
So how do you two pass it back and forth? And I'm always interested because when it comes to traditional instruments, right? Your guitar, your bass, your drums, you pass some stems back and forth. I get it. Doug, you're coming at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So is it Orion?
Stems.
You've got like an idea and you send him some stems with like, hey, I think the groove goes like this, or how does that? And then I guess, Doug, one of the other things, and I use this term a lot, I probably shouldn't. The sound samples and the soundscapes that sit behind the music are actually tasteful. They're not overpowering, but they're not there to throw in as like a lark, right? And I'm always curious as to how do you find that, because I really do think it's a delicate balance between either overpowering the music that's there or being lost in the sauce. And how do you find that? Because I'll be honest with you, I love the Deftones, but sometimes I think his stuff gets Frank's stuff gets completely lost. And then there's other times where it is pitch perfect and it's right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So how do you find that?
When Girls Telephone Boys is like a really good Deftones song, is like a really good example of like his samples and his turntables like being like right in the mix, and you can hear it and it's there and it sounds so cool. Like I look up to a lot of those turntablists and samplers for that, because like a lot of them find that Goldilocks zone, and I think a lot of it is just like going back and forth and like talking to each other about it and getting it to a point where it sounds right. Like a lot of times there were parts where I was like, actually, can you like turn this up a little bit? I kind of want the turntables to like be a little bit louder in this section, or sometimes I want them a little bit more subdued in the mix. And it really has to do with like the fact that the instrument itself has like volume sliders makes it like pretty easy for you to kind of just listen to it and get to a point where you're like, I like it like right here, so I'm just gonna keep it at this point.
I got
a lot of it is feel, and yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I feel like I want to answer this and just go like, yes, it took me lots of years of practice and timing, but a lot of it is just feel, you know. It's like any other instrument where you're kind of just like, if it feels right, it is right. And with the turntables, it's pretty similar. Yeah, there's a lot of technicality that comes into scratching, like eighth notes and triplets and sixteens, like there is with guitars and stuff like that. But a lot of it is feel. You just kind of have to get to a point where like, this sounds right, I'm just going to keep it like this, and also try and stay in key. That's like pretty important as well.
So being that you use an instrument that has faders on it already, so you're pretty much in the recording process, you're pretty much taking the automation out because you don't need to automate, which is amazing, because that's one of the most annoying parts of producing music is going in and knowing where to automate where you know your instrument. So that's I never even thought about that.
Yeah, being able to do fade outs, fade ins, vibratos, adding effects while scratching makes it so much easier for the post production process, where you don't actually have to add like giant buses of like 12 different effects on there, because you have your turntablists already running their stuff through pedals. And I use the multi effects pedal as well, just because I look up to like DJ Lethal, and he runs his turntables through like a Marshall stack, so he can make the scratching sound like a guitar, right? He's a reverse Tom Morello. It's so cool. And I try and do that stuff as well. So there are like parts in the Dropspike album where like there is scratching, and I try to like emulate the guitars as well. I try to scratch the riff on the turntables, like reverse Tom Morelloing it. And it sounds pretty cool. And I've done it on like other stuff that I've worked on as well. Like on Kirk's album, I did that. And then on Hanny Slip stuff, I've done that as well, because I've worked with that guy. I've worked with a lot of fans, but like that never release their stuff. They always pay me. They're like, oh yeah, here we have like an album coming out soon, and then like I never hear anything. Kaolis is another really cool one. You might have seen them on Twitter. But their stuff is pretty cool, like modern new metal. They almost have like a reggae-esque kind of feel to them. They sound like Disturbed but heavier with like drop A sharp tunings.
I am
it's
waiting
shit.
for the reggae new metal band. There's one,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to find a copy of the CD. My college roommate took it from me. There was a band on Raucous Records out of New York that they did a reggae influence take on new metal, and they were the only band for the original run that I ever heard. And they
I
were
have another one for you.
Ooh, I got a couple.
They were
I
were
knew
another.
this was coming.
All right, I'm curious. What's yours? 'Cause
Yeah,
I got.
So mine is I forgot exactly where they're from. Actually, no, they're actually Canadian, which is even weirder. But this band called Neva, which is Neva, which they're like I call them the reggae taproot.
Ooh.
So they have like taproot guitar riffs with like reggae drum beats and vocal influence and stuff like that, and then they'll just break out into like really low tune chunky breakdowns and stuff like that. They're real nutty, and their vocalist Peacefire went on to a post-hardcore band called Emblem, and they were also a huge influence on me during that time.
I got I guess Dub War,
yeah. Well,
Skindred.
Dub War, yeah. Anything Benji
Yeah.
Webb touches,
Yeah, that and Insolence. At least like the post thrash metal Insolence stuff, like their Revolution album, which that band I don't think they like me much. They like copyright striked one of my YouTube videos. And they're like,
Yeah, they don't like you
how
very much.
dare you do a cover of one of our songs
Oh,
without
we get that.
asking us?
We get that shit all the time.
Ooh.
We don't even do anything even close to Century Media because they flag our stuff every time.
Yeah.
That band Neva, how old, Orion? When?
Older than me.
Because the one I'm thinking of, Plastique out of New York, this is 94.
Oh,
So this is like
this
this
H
is
Blocks era.
this is like Lungs, Tribal Disco Noise, Plastique. This was all that proto new metal stuff that was floating around that was right below the surface. I mean, I wish I could go back and find my old copies of Rip magazine where this is where I used to find this stuff. And there were some people that were convinced that was the next big thing, and then Korn blew the doors off, and that was the end of that. So what's next for you guys? What are you doing next? I mean, you just put out the EP. There's, I mean, was it 11 tracks? It's 6 tracks and then all instrumentals. Is it a grindcore gabber album? I'd like to hear that crossover.
Actually,
we need a grindcore gabber.
I'm actually working on that at the moment because I've been on a big kick with the Berserker lately, and
I was gonna say Berserker was gonna be my example.
No, I've actually been on a big kick with Luke's music, and I was like, I want to try working on some stuff, and I do have 2 gabber grind songs in the works at the moment, so it's funny you mentioned that. And I wanted Doug to scratch on them. And I have a friend from Australia named Daniel who does like very like grindcore-y, gore grind harsh vocals and stuff like that, and I wanted to try and do some stuff for it.
People forget that the Berserker Mortician, you don't need a live drummer if you can't find someone that can pull it off. Just play to a track. It works.
The drum machines on Dissimulator, like insane. All of their stuff, Animosity. And,
Tim, I cut you off.
No, that's fine. I was gonna say like you guys, as being as young as you are, and are in like a golden age here, because back then we didn't have Dropbox and all that stuff. So like. If you take Dropbox and Google Drive and all them out of the picture, how does you like a quarter of the bands right now don't exist, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah. So
Darknet wouldn't exist.
Darknet's such a good band.
Yeah, I would actually say probably half, Tim. Even if you think about it, right? Think about the Deftones, right? They started out together. Now they live all over the West Coast, right? Like,
well, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. So like, even like the whole thing where you guys, because you guys are taught, what did you say that board was on? Discord, right? I have no clue how to use that shit. I'm too old for it. I don't know clue what I'm doing on there. I get on there, I see a bunch of bullshit, and I go, get out of here. But like, if you guys don't have the means to do that, like, what are you doing now? Like now, are you just making your own music? Like both of you, like, what will you do without that? Because
my tracks would be a lot more boring.
I think it'd be isolated, right? You'd have little cells. Yeah, you'd be very isolated.
Would you learn how to do that stuff yourself? You know what I mean? Like, would you buy? I mean,
I have a deck. I mean, it's like a controller type thing. I mean, I tried learning how to scratch, but I mean, it's just I can't do it.
I mean, I do play bass, So
Okay.
I'd probably be in like a local hardcore band or something, and I'd probably like every now and then would go like, "Hey guys, maybe we should have like some turntable scratching like during this breakdown. That'd be really cool, right?" And then like instantly get kicked out because they're like, "Get the fuck out of here with that new metal shit."
Well, see, that's part of my other question. Like, that seems like it's one of the hardest things to learn because, like, I look at that kind of shit and I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. Like, there's just too many things spinning, and I'm good. So,
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's like it's very like when I see people do that and I see them do it well, like I appreciate that shit because it's
It,
got to be hard to learn that. It's like a craft where like
it looks like a spaceship, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
like
no, it's crazy.
Dude,
You know,
learning that is
I got a
so hard.
suicidal patch on the back too. Well, not
Two
patch,
of them.
stickers. Yeah, let's go, and one on the wall too.
I don't have much. I new metalified my water bottle. That's about it.
No way.
like what's the learning curve for that? Like how long did it take for you to get good
So,
at it?
ooh, I started. Okay, so I started on the guitar like originally. My dad got me a guitar when I was like 8, and I sucked ass, and I that was about it for my guitar. And I didn't really like start thinking about music properly until around like the 7th grade. With like my music classes and my music teacher who was teaching me the keyboards, and I wanted to like understand how I could like bring a little USB with like my own sounds in there and put them in there so I could like load in my own samples so I could like make music on the keyboard. And he's like, why don't you just get like an MPC and like a turntable or something? So I looked those up and I'm like, that's expensive. I'm gonna beg my dad for this. So a little like 13-year-old me just kept begging my dad to get me turntables so I could be like Skrillex or Zomboy or something because this was also like 2013-ish. So you know, I was still really into dubstep at the time, and Korn's Path of Totality came out, and I thought that was the coolest shit in the world. It blew my brain. I was just like, oh my god, this is new metal and dubstep, because my dad kind of raised me on a lot of the new metal stuff when I was a kid. He's like a grunge guy from the '90s, and he was really into like some early thrash stuff, but his scene was like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and then 2000s comes around, he gets into new metal, he gets into Linkin Park and Seether and Disturbed, and that those bands are like the bands that he raised me on. Anyways, I digress. I beg him for turntables. He gets them for me when I'm like 13, and I basically just like fake it till I make it until I'm like 16. And I just kept going, watching YouTube videos, trying to learn, downloading samples off the internet and audio, going on forums, asking other turntablists, watching DMC scratch tournaments where I watch like DJ Babu like cut 16th notes while his eyes are closed backwards. Fucking crazy shit. Or DJ Swamp who like sets his decks on fire and scratches. That guy is fucking crazy. It makes complete sense why Ministry wanted him in their band. Which I don't know if you guys know about that. DJ Swamp was in Ministry for a while, which
That I did not know.
that
No,
is
I
really
did not
cool.
either.
He was on Ministry's arguably their worst album, the America Can't
Oh
album.
god, it's trash.
That
Yeah,
album
yeah.
is trash. It's
I
so
haven't listened
fucking
to it.
bad. It I don't know. It's pretty bad. But there's like one song on there, the thrash metal song with the turntable scratching, the actual song that isn't like just random noise interludes and like shit. And that song is really cool. And so I don't know, just like kind of progressing through that. And I always kind of wanted to do the new metal thing and like bring this to a point where I could like do videos on my YouTube channel and just try and get turntablism into a point where I can like talk about it openly in the scene and just go like, maybe it's not just a new metal thing. Maybe I can like do this over death metal and slam and like hardcore and grindcore and like make like gabber deathcore shit as well. Like who knows? I just kind of wanted to try and bring more electronic elements into
That would be an interesting juxtaposition. Like, 'cause I could see that working in slam.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I really
for
could see
sure.
that working in slam. Somebody on the Reddit new metal board said, "What was the first slam new metal band?" And I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, there
Kitchen
was
Knife
no concept of that.
Conspiracy.
So I'm like, so I replied with "Snuffed on Sight," and then I got like all this what, and I'm like,
Oh.
I just hope one person went out and found them
Wait
on
a sec- wait,
Spotify.
who?
Snuffed on
Snuff on
Sight.
Sight.
They're from
I
California.
can't tell.
Hunter Young, Swamp Sound does a guy from Body Box. And
Okay, I know who they are.
I think he produced that EP. He does. This guy has the most insane gutturals because he does it on an inhale. So he gets these really weird noises. But yeah, it's caveman shit, but I can see that
Yeah.
with a little bit of turntable in the background and it really, really working.
Yeah.
I do that in my free time. I scratch on Slam and scratch on. I do it because it's like this is really fun and this is kind of where I want to take turntablism. I want to be like the extreme turntable guy wearing a fucking gas mask in a slam metal band where like we have a decapitated pig and I'm fucking like pulling its fucking skull out and wearing the fucking skin and scratching on these turntables and setting shit on fire.
And I also think when I think about, when you think about a breakdown in a traditional slam song, that's about 4 on the floor. That's about a standard 4/4 time. So it would lend itself to some flourishes at the margins, right? You could sneak some stuff in and it would be like, well, okay. I mean, what was the band, Tim? I sent you the sample where they have the reggae horn in the middle of it. Peeling Flesh. Where they go right into a breakdown and you hear, and it's like, yo, what? But,
I forgot After the Burial did that too.
it works.
Head PE did that on Represent, where they got DJ Product just scratch air horns during the verses, which is fucking stupid, but I love it.
Speaking of After the Burial, that 2-song EP they put out yesterday, fucking banger.
I gotta check that out.
Love that band.
I just got through this morning the that Iris.exe song, which is amazing. And I got through that Scarab EP. I got through the new Peeling Flesh song.
Have you all listened to?
I just started Rotten Sound, and I was just about to get out of the car, and I got through the first song, and I was like, Jesus! I'm like, I gotta come back to this because that's one of those I want to listen and pay attention.
You guys need to check out Kitchen Knife Conspiracy.
Okay.
They are new death metal from like the 2000s. They're basically just like death metal or slam metal, but they got like new metal bounce riffs and basically death growl rapping.
They got that like goofy Mod Flanders conspiracy aesthetic thing going on too.
Yeah, they have an album called Handicapitated.
Yeah, Handicapitated.
Fucking hilarious album cover.
I love the play on words. I really do.
Yeah.
I wish I was that witty.
Yeah, because the album cover is like the handicapped wheelchair sign, but the dude's head's on the floor.
Yeah, and they have song titles like
so funny,
like "Don't Leave Your Pets Outside" and "I'm Having a Moral Eclipse and I'm going to set myself
on fire."
Yeah.
That's the old right, Tim, the old early aughts, right?
Old Kill Whitney Dead and
the swoopy,
Dude, Kill Whitney
haircut.
Dead is
yeah. The old chicks jeans and studded belts. I still have one upstairs, and the neon. Everybody had neon merch. Animosity, right? It was the neon ginormous merch. So I know we're quickly running up on time because I know Tim's got some stuff to do. Guys, first of all, what's next? What are you doing next with this? You're gonna go back into the kitchen and create some stuff? What's coming up?
We're gonna work on an album. I have a bunch of song ideas that I still need to record. And I'm gonna take my fundamental sound of the EP, which was basically just with post-hardcore new metal, and I'm gonna start incorporating more actual hardcore punk influences. And then on the complete other end, I want to start adding some more like progressive elements and stuff like that. Because I want to do the sort of like carnival achroma thing where it's like they mix the alternative rock and new metal with the progressive elements. Like, I want this next album to be our themata, if that makes sense.
Okay.
If you've ever listened to Themata by Carnival.
A very underrated, underappreciated band is Carnival.
Yeah, Carnival is really cool.
They're super good. Yeah, we want to have that kind of like, and I also kind of want to like have that, I call it the North Carolina sound, where it's like every band from that team just has that perfect mix. Yeah, Swift, School for Heroes, Cardinal Effect, Stellar Circuit, Scapegoat, the Hope Squad.
So basically Tribunal.
Yeah. Basically, we're gonna try and get signed to Dive Bomb Tribunal Records. That's what we're gonna try.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
And I'll have to rock paper
Matt, dude.
Ooh, yes. I'll have to rock paper scissors.
Dude, I'm a huge Kill Whitney Dead fan, bro. Please sign us.
Matt was in Kill Whitney,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool ass dude.
That's cool.
We'll have to see who takes on bass duties because we have a buddy called Cormac.
I don't know.
Yeah, Cormac's. I might have to rock paper scissors and see who plays bass because I got myself a 5-string.
Like the bass I have is like back there in the Epiphone bag. Like it's a great bass, but the pickups in it are like beyond messed up. Like I had to do so much post processing on my bass for the EP. Like it's unrecognizable. And even then, I saw people say the bass is too low in the mix. It's like, yeah, that's completely fair. That bass is it's messed up.
If I
But
were
it's like,
playing bass earlier, I
we
could have like
we
done
both
one
have
bass
a
stuff.
we both have a mutual friend named Cormac, and he's like an insanely good like slap funk bass player, and
He
just
is
like metal in
Primus.
general. Like he's super good.
Yeah,
So
he
he
likes
was
like
like,
Nuclear Rabbit and stuff. Like that
yeah, he
dude's
likes,
like a slap bass god. We
yeah,
need like we need like Ryan Martini's like slap bass sound in
yeah,
our mix. That's basically what we're looking
yeah.
for as well. And I think the other elements I kind of want to try and add to it is just more technical turntablism. I want to try and just not try and take over, but I do want sections where people listen to it and they're like, "Whoa, that was really fucking cool."
Yeah, it's like that's Doug's section.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of what I was saying with the progressiveness too, because I kind of want to like have some sections back and forth where each of the members just have a spotlight. Like I'll do a
Jazzy.
solo, and then Doug will do a solo, and then Cormac will do like a slap bridge or something like that. I
We
think
need
that's
jazz. That's what we need
We
to
need
sound like
jazz.
Candiria, dude. We need like a Candiria mix in there.
Yeah, we're gonna
Hell
do some
yeah, without
Candiria
water.
moments.
Fuck
It's,
yeah.
yeah, dude.
One of those
And
rare
this-
bands where you listen to and you're like, what the fuck is actually going on here?
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, no, Candiria was like so ahead of their time, like legitimately, like. And also, there's this one band that I love to bits, and they're called Neck.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
Yep, which is Car Bomb, right, Tim?
yeah,
Did they become
yeah.
Car Bomb?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
went on.
neck is from where I live.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
that's
Yeah, no,
really
I
cool.
really want that. Like, I have a vintage like '80s Ludwig Acolyte snare that I've just have completely cranked, and it just sounds like absolutely like just trashy. It sounds amazing, and it sounds like the Should My Fist Eye snare. So I want to have some songs where it's like that really like chunky drop F sharp with a bunch of like harmonic sweep style, just new metal hardcore. Like I
If
really
this-
want to start going nuttier with my recording.
You want to
I'm
talk
also-
about
Yeah.
you want to talk about a band way ahead of its time is fucking Neck. Dude, I
Yeah.
used to
Dude,
see
I gotta
them in
listen to that.
churches.
Absolutely
I used to see them in church like rec rooms in like 96 and shit. Like
lucky.
that
They
shit
played,
was fucking crazy, dude.
They played the VOD, the reunion show that they did for a DVD. The first night was God Forbid. And
Wow.
it might have been
Okay.
God Forbid and Silent
Okay.
Majority. The second night was Candiria and Neck was the opener.
Whoa.
That sounds so
That's
good.
that sounds like a
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
fun
I
time.
drove out to fucking Long Island for that one. Jesus, that was,
I
that was
would have driven out to
2006,
Long Island for that. Are you
2007.
kidding me?
Oh, we could sit here and make you guys super jealous. Yeah,
some
Candiria
of
Neck,
that-
A Life Once Lost in one show. I mean, when A Life Once Lost was putting out, that grindy sound and stuff.
When
A Life Once Lost is so good.
when we
They're
saw
from around here too.
when we saw Zone
That's
Zero
so
the other
cool.
night, Jordan was talking about how there's one song that everybody asks them to play that they're not playing on this tour. And all I could think about was Bob Meadows with A Life Once Lost. Every
Yeah.
time they would play Philly, somebody would yell, "Play Jane Says," or what was it?
Jane said please, and he would always yell.
He would yell, "Jane
no.
said no," and they would go right into the next song. And it literally became a running gag that they refused to play that song.
It's like the thrice play Deadbolt thing. And then when I saw them the first time, they played it.
Yo, I went back and checked out The Illusion of Safety. I forgot how great that album was. They lost me right after that because they went way too far into like the rock and roll radio stuff, but that was a brilliant album.
Yeah,
And
that
like
album's
17
fantastic.
songs. Like that's
Yeah.
a deep record for back
It's like
then.
Motor Grader without
Yeah.
the interludes.
God.
Identity Crisis is even better, I think.
I think both
Really?
of them are on par. No, I think both Identity Crisis and Illusion of Safety are pretty on par.
I kind of I kind of lost interest. What was after Illusion of Safety? It was their major label debut.
That was
Artist
that
in
was
the
Artist
Artist
in
in Ambulance,
Yeah,
right? And then it
which,
was like Vaesu or something like that. Yeah.
Visu. Yeah,
Visu,
Visu
yeah.
after that. Yeah, in 2005.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, gents. So we're gonna throw links to your Spotify page and all that stuff in the show notes. Want to thank you guys for taking the time to come on and hang out with us for a little bit. Want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in once again. Find us on find us at newbreed_podcast on both Instagram and Twitter, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com for all your questions, comments, concerns, and complaints. Please send them along. You can find us on r/newmetal, and you can find us on our Facebook group, which is actually quite lively as of late. So until next time, this is a New Breed Podcast saying peace.
Later.
Bye.
Yeah.